Well, it's 4 p.m. in Radio Cairo FM 94, and it is me, Dr. Amr Mabrouk, with Muhammad at the controls, and today is the world of info. It's hot weather in Cairo, and I believe a lot of people are going, maybe are listening to us on the radio. And of course, there is a lot of things doing around today because you are waiting patiently for the suns, and at the same time, I think that there is not much of just opera months in Ramadan. Maybe you'll have a chance to grasp some summer reading. Today is the world of books from the world of info. I say that the best friend for you is a book, and I totally believe in this. And today is the world of books. And you know that every month we try to present some books of interest, books that might attract the attention of the listeners, invade them, read them, and or toss it. So the idea is, rule of the game is read it, skim it, or toss it. And usually, always biased person with the books, and always my advice to you is to read these books. And today we have to play the game with 4 books that I believe are very interesting ones. And we start right away, just give a narration of the books that I'm going to show our friends, listeners, how to start reading them. First book is Prisoners of Geography by T. Marshall. The second book is as a complement to novels, Tahir. And 2 of the great Mahfouz, Al-Maraya, or Mirrors, and In Front of the Throne, or أمام العرش, حوار بين الحكم. So, relax. If you are trapped in one of the traffics of Cairo, try to listen about the world of books. So today is World of Books, the World of Info. We're starting right with the first book, a book that I believe is one of the very enlightening books, a book that will help you to understand the world of today. And it's talking with a very tough subject, but from the periscope of political geography. And political geography means that it's a book written by T. Marshall called Prisoners of Geography, 10 maps that explain everything about the world. And so in its own 300 pages, it did explain everything about the world, yes. And it's stimulating to read and to examine these 10 maps that the author has really shown in this book. And he is a geographist or a scientist, he's a commentator, and he's a journalist, and he is a political analyst. So he put maps and started explaining to them how the geography control the politics of today. And so he has given us maps of the following countries, places: Russia, China, United States, Western Europe, Africa, the Middle East, India and Pakistan, Korea and Japan, Latin America, and the Arctic. Yes. 10 maps, and completely summarize everything about the politics of the world. So let's start with the first map, which is Russia. Yes. So Russia is a superpower, or is it not? Well, in 2014, President Obama said Russia is a big power, but it will never be a superpower. A lot of people thought that this is simply a sort of mass media campaign in order to decrease the status of Russia, and to tell the people of the world that Russia is never and will not be a superpower like the United States, increasing the confidence of the Americans and the Western Hemisphere, and trying to combat the confidence and the resurrection of the Russian spirit and of President Putin. So is the statement true or false? Well, the statement as regards politics or as regards the power of the army is false. But as regards geography, there are a lot of difficulties that are facing Russia in order to become a superpower. What are these difficulties? It's geographical. Russia lacks a deep sea water port. And Russia, because of the fact that almost all her ways to reach the oceans are guarded and protected by the Western Hemisphere, has always a problem of building a strong navy and spreading it around. So why do you need a strong navy? Well, to be a superpower, you need a strong navy. Spain had a strong navy to build its empire. Britain replaced Spain because Britain has a super navy, and the United States of America replaced Britain to become a superpower with a super navy with bases all over the world. So the problem of Russia is that it lacks this sports that will enable a strong navy to build its power and spread its power around. So this is one point. Yes, not only this point. The second point is demographic, because the population of Russia is on the decline. The number of Russians who are increasing is not increasing anymore. A lot of people get married or have only one child instead of having 2, so population decline. As regards technology and science, of course, Russia is a very advanced country. So to become a superpower, it faces a lot of problems and a lot of geographic problems that are difficult to solve. How to solve them or how to try to solve them, this is the work of President Putin, but of course it is also the work of T. Marshall, the author, to try to analyze how Russia can build up on the present geography in order to build a great power. And why Russia is very interested to keep control of Ukraine, and why is it very important to have a strong binding relation with Poland. Well, this you can really understand from reading the map. Tell you everything that's in the book. I'm trying to stimulate you to read it. Now, the second power is the power of China. China is a great country. It's a country that was able to build up on an economy 1 billion to 100 million people, and yet they were able to reach a successful story in very few decades. China of the 19th century was a failure state with the opium and with the British occupation and with backwardness that nobody can really pull up. With Mao Zedong on the helm of power, there was the revolutionary or the cultural revolution ended up with death and nation of a number of the population, but it kept the country in that. How was the Chinese of today able to build such a super economic power, a power that is able to compete with the power of the United States? This is a miracle. But still, it's a prisoner of geography. It has the same point that in order to have a strong navy and to secure its needs of power and of oil and gas and transferring its goods, it has to pass through seas, or the China Sea, the Sea of China, which are all seas are surrounded by, I will not say hostile powers, but definitely not friendly. So how can China penetrate that? How can China build its roads through Asia? How it can reach a deep sea port in Pakistan through Tibet? Well, this is something. And how China can really have a strong love-hate relationship with India that has kept both countries away from fighting each other simply because their borders are very difficult to penetrate. So this time geography has served both countries or both superpowers, strong powers of the world. So talking about India and the strength of India, also he has given it a chapter. But when we talk about the United States, for him, whether he's not American, he's British, he says this is the superpower of today and of tomorrow. Why? Because geography has served the United States of America. And yes, it is what mockingly Bismarck, the council of the famous chancellor of Germany, said in the 19th century, God has a lot of mercy to a lot of people, the fools, the drunkards, and definitely the United States of America. Yes, God has given America everything because it has the exposure into two strong oceans that protect and prevent any sane power from invading the United States of America. The country has a lot of navigable rivers that allows the transport of commerce from the Midwest and the Mideast to the coasts of the Atlantic. It has great reservoirs of natural resources, and one of the states has almost all of the European Union. So it's a country that has been blessed with a lot of natural resources and intelligent people who are trying to build up on this. So when you compare the geography of the United States of America and its neighbor, whether this is northern neighbor, that is Canada, or the southern neighbor, that is Mexico, you'll find that geography was very kind to the United States. So the superpower of the United States comes from its resources and its geography. It's not a prisoner of geography, it's a master geography. So, how can we analyze the world through the eyes of Marshall using geography about Korea and Japan? And he's talking about Latin America, a continent that, although it has a very long river, that's the Amazon, yet it's not all of it available. And the mountains in the south of Latin America are not as kind as is happening in the north. So this makes the communication and the trade between the states of Latin America not as easy as that with the north. Well, yes, Brazil and Argentina and Chile are great powers as regards economy, but yet they face a lot of problems because of geography. So we'll end up by discussing about our region, the Middle East, and we'll say, wow, we are definitely prisoners of geography. The place and the geographic state of Egypt makes it really the center of the world. The Suez Canal and the arrangement of Egypt make it always a place that a lot of people want to control. It has been always the fate of Egypt to be the site and to be the builder of an empire, a strong empire in the south of the Mediterranean, and a place that a lot of powers would struggle to put down to the curb and prevent it from growth. So, Egypt is a prisoner of geography or a blessing of geography. It depends on the power and the game of it. So, a book deserves to be read. Prisoners of Geography, maps that explain everything about the world by Tim Marshall. I think it's a very valuable book to read. I even asked one of my friends, who is an owner of one of his houses, try to translate the book because I think the non-English speaker Egyptians would be interested to read a book that will help them to identify with the geopolitics of today. We're still listening to the World of Books from Radio Cairo, FM 95.4. So, We're still listening to the World of Info and the World of Books coming to you live from Studio 3, and we're talking about the second book. The second book is by Baha Tahir, the famous novelist. Well, Baha Tahir, oh really, that's a real nice gentleman, a man who has mastered the technique of writing a novel. A man, when he writes a novel or a piece of a small short story, you would always feel that these characters are living between us, and that whenever you will ever meet Mr. Baha Tahir, you will start asking him, what happened to X or Y, the heroes of your short story or your novel, after you stopped writing about them? Where are they now? What did they do in their lives? You will never ever believe that this is fiction. Stories are so true, and mastering the technique of writing novels is really a great talented man. So when such a man writes a book about, in complement of the novels, and start discussing and opening up his library and telling us about the perfect novels that he has read through his life, we have to listen and we have to read. And we have to grasp the philosophical moment of every single word that Mr. Baha Tahir has chosen to write about. And yes, when you open the pages of this small book, you'll find that it is partially part of articles that he has published elsewhere in some newspapers. And it gives you an idea of how he is trying to analyze some of these novels. But all of the novels that he has discussed, he is a great fan of. So we are reading about a biased writer, and we understand through reading that totally he is not biased. He's just appreciating the prose, the writing, and the ideas of these greatly selected writers. And apart from Naguib Mahfouz, I believe that everyone that Baha Tahir has written about in this book will feel or is feeling very proud that Baha Tahir has chosen his book. And knowing how modest is Naguib Mahfouz as a gentleman and as a writer, if he has read these articles or they were published during his life, he would have also appreciated them. Because Baha was very kind and gentle, but very up to the point, and discussing in great way of intellect why he has chosen this novel in particular to discuss, and try to attract your attention to these treasures of prose and of novels. Well, why people read novels? Well, this is a very difficult question. People would say, I would like to read history, I don't like to read non-fiction. But actually, fiction is one of the most important books that are written and subjected all over the world. And why people do read fiction? Because they try to amuse themselves with the lives and times of others. And that's why they find great amusement in writing a novel and examining its plot. And sometimes, if the plot is so interesting, they will start pulling the pages and even read the end before completing the beginning. So the novels are really exposure of the life and the time of a novelist. And not a single novelist would write a book without being really affected by a certain incident or an accident or a lifetime experience in his life when he writes a book. Nobody just sits down and writes a novel without this novel consuming his mind, his abilities and his capabilities to understand and to grasp, and then to communicate the idea and make it reach in an edible way to the reader. And no one is mastering this technique except, or maximum, is by Naguib Mahfouz. And Naguib Mahfouz, if you understand, if you have read something about him, and we're going today to discuss two of his novels, Naguib Mahfouz is a man who has graduated from the Faculty of Arts philosophy section. And philosophy is part of his life. So when he studied philosophy, later on he was able to analyze the situations and the positions of the people that he meet and the characters that he really write about. And so when we talk about Naguib Mahfouz, he has dedicated one of the articles, Mr. Baha Tahir, to Old Egypt in Naguib Mahfouz's work. And the new reading of one of his last books, 95 Dur. So, talking about Naguib Mahfouz and examining why he has chosen the writing about Old Egypt and what particular periods attracted his attention, we'll find that the philosophy of Naguib Mahfouz was to take small shots of ancient Egypt. He studied the history of ancient Egypt very thoroughly. So when he discussed the Old Kingdom or the Middle Kingdom or the New Kingdom, and when he discussed about Akhenaten, he was kind enough to show with great interest what people think about this important period in the history of Egypt, and at the same time how he could really understand and convey the message of importance. Not only this, he has also examined the work of a lot of novelists, recent novelists and modern novelists, including, for example, Amarat Yaqubian or Yaqubian Building, or a beautiful novel which is called A Very Small Seat That Is Enough Just for Two. Look at the name of the novel. Yes, this novel in particular, Baha Tahir was so interested to discuss and to attract his attention. And by this we mean, of course, the writer who has written this novel. And it's a novel by Shahat al-Aryan. It's short and it's beautiful. So, examining the world of novels by a novelist is a great experience. Reading a book written by Baha Tahir with his precise words and wordings will give you an explanation, and a thorough explanation of why should you read these novels. And of course, this is very stimulating. The second part of the book was discussing the lives and times of some of these writers and novelists and how they have affected Baha Tahir as a novelist. And he has presented 4 important characters that he personally has known and met. For example, Fathi Ghanem, who he has suggested that he is a man who has been always honest to his principles, a man who has chosen to defend the right of the young people to express themselves, including Baha Tahir himself, and in this way losing partially his job. Writing about Abdel Fattah al-Gamal, who was very interested to convey and to teach the Egyptians the new and the most recent aspects of culture. And writing about Dr. Latif al-Zayyat, who was a professor of literature and at the same time a leftist and a very advanced lady who has suffered all through her life from jails and imprisonment. And of course, last but not least, Saleh Morsi, the man who has written to us Ra'fat al-Haggan and of course al-Haffar. And to write about Saleh Morsi and about his taste of writing, this is very interesting. So, a book that deserves to be read, not to be tossed, by Baha Tahir, in complement of the novel, reading in novels and in novelists, reading about novels and novelists by Baha Tahir, a book that will definitely add a lot to the way that you're thinking and in trying to understand how to read a novel in such a hot day. Well, we're still listening to World of Info from Radio Cairo, and today is the world of books. Stay with us after the break. So we're listening to the World of Info. Today is the world of books, and the third book of today is Al-Maraya by Naguib Mahfouz, and by this meaning the mirrors. What a book. Well, actually, I always heard about the book, and always I read some people who have written their criticism of the book and how they really advised that you should read this book. So one day I was in the book shop and I decided to buy it, and I couldn't leave it until I finished it. Naguib Mahfouz is analyzing characters that he met in his life, giving us in every chapter a new character that are really completely, all of them, connected with a very thin thread of the knowledge of the writer, of the fictitious writer to them. And these characters, mostly all of them, know each other or have seen each other or have lived with each other for short periods of time. But you can read every chapter by itself with full understanding of what is written in it without any concern with the chapter before it. So this is what we call a genius writer. And Naguib was able to analyze these characters, and he's talking about themselves, about these people, how they see themselves in the mirror. It is totally a true picture. They say that a person only the person himself is the one who knows exactly who he is. Only the person himself who can really analyze himself and tell himself, where do I stand from the world? Whatever type of act he's putting, whatever type of information he's hiding, whatever type of mask he is wearing, yet in front of the mirror at his home, he will see himself right through the eye. And here, Naguib Mahfouz is simply analyzing himself and looking exactly like the mirror, which sees everything inside the character that he's analyzing or dissecting. I mean, the man is like a forensic medicine scientist, if we use or borrow this expression. And very short sentences that are bound together endlessly. And you are rushing with your own eyes, reading as fast as you can, trying to know how much is this character related to the world, and how much is this character true or false in its view of the world, and what made this character does what it has done through its life. Well, this is the work of Naguib Mahfouz in every chapter, not exceeding more than 10 pages. How he is doing that, I really cannot understand. This is part of the geniosity and the intelligence of Naguib Mahfouz. And when you read what Naguib has written, you will definitely understand this is something great. So, when this book is translated in English by the AUC, I find out that the characters have been drawn and painted by Saif Wanli, the great painter. And every character, after Saif has read the novel or the chapter, he has drawn a portrait of this character as far as he can imagine. So when we talk, for example, of one of these characters, which is by the name of Abbas Fawzi, to give you an example how this man really was able to analyze, just in the middle of the book, Abbas Fawzi is one of his colleagues in the office where the writer is working as an employee in the Egyptian government. How far is that related to Naguib Mahfouz as a real character? Well, Naguib Mahfouz was an employee in the Egyptian government, and particularly in Hayat al-Kutub, Dar al-Kitab. So when Naguib Mahfouz is working, describing the life and times of employees, we have to listen. He was an employee for almost 40 years. And he said that on the first day of his job, he met Mr. Abbas Fawzi. Of course, all the names are fictitious. Nobody knows actually if they are true or false, or true or just fictitious as characters. And he was saying that this Abbas Fawzi was a man who has been at the age of 35 working in this humble job that the writer has just joined, and that he, in spite of the fact that he is not having any qualification from the university, yet he is having the 6th degree, and the 6th degree is a medium range of employment. He's not an important employee, but he is simply a medium range employee, and people around him say he doesn't deserve even the 6. Well, Abbas Fawzi had a certain character that he used to read a lot, and used to memorize everything that is related to the Arab literature, Arabic literature. And he was used to write a lot of books and articles. And whenever a new minister, of course he's talking about before the 1952 revolution, whenever a minister gets gets his new job, he goes there, meet him, and present him a group of his books, and usually the minister would accept them and will forget him. Until one time he presented these books to a new minister who was very much interested in culture, and promoted Abbas to the 6th degree. After that, the people forgot Abbas, and nobody was caring to promote him. And of course he had his own bitterness, and he had his own idea of the world. He has a great sarcasm, and he always has an ammunition of degrading people and giving the writer example why these people are bad or mean. Whether this is justified or not, but he was what we call a very cunning person who had always something bad to say about people. That's why he was not very much liked. But he was a very highly cultured person. So how can such a man, having all this combination of characters and character flows, succeed in life? He's married, he has a lot of children, and he doesn't have a sole income except that coming from this job that he has taken in the Egyptian government. So he has met another minister who also promoted him just before getting to the age of 60 to the rank number 5. So what should we do? Suddenly he has discovered that what he should do is to write and use his information that he has got from the Arab literature to write books that people will become very popular in reading them. And he started to write books about Islam and about the prophets, in spite of the fact that he himself in the middle is not that religious. So suddenly the books are becoming bestsellers, and suddenly he's making a large and a great amount of money, building himself a building and a villa and everything, but keeping his sarcasm always forever. So he went on with his sarcasm, and he went on with writing books, and he went on living in this life as it is described by Naguib Mahfouz. So in this way we are discussing one of the characters that Naguib has seen clearly in his life and described, with all the contradictions and all the flows and all the pros and the cons. As you go on reading the book of Al-Maraya, you will understand how far is Naguib Mahfouz related to people, how far philosophy has changed his life and attracted his attention to analyze people from a philosophical point of view, not just from a psychological point of view. He's not talking about motives, but he's talking mainly about characters in a neutral way. Excuse me. So when we're talking about Naguib Mahfouz, about Al-Maraya, a book that I believe will change your way of perception of the world when you read it, especially when you know that Naguib Mahfouz has written this book in the early 70s, 1970, 1971, and it's been published first time in 1972. Well, Al-Maraya by Naguib Mahfouz, a book that deserves to be read. So you're listening to the World of Info, World of Books, coming to you live from Studio 3, Radio Cairo. And today we are talking about books, and the final book is a book by Naguib Mahfouz also, and it's called In Front of the Throne, a discussion between rulers of Egypt. Well, I really don't know how this mind, or this brilliant mind of Naguib Mahfouz is working, how he is capable of using the culture and the education that he has taken through his life and his interest in the Egyptian history in materializing this into real characters, into human beings of flesh and blood, going around and meeting each other. In what? In court. And this court is made by Osiris and the Egyptian court. You know, of course, the famous idea of the pharaonic Egypt is that after death of a king or a human being, all you go to do is to go to a court where the gods are standing in front of you and you're standing in front of them, and your heart is weighed in front of a feather, and the feather is the mat, and this is the right thing. And so if your heart is full of good deeds, it's going to be balanced by the feather. If your heart is bad, then it will outweigh the feather, and therefore this spirit or this man or this woman are going to be thrown in eternal hell. And who's judging that? These are the gods. So this is the idea of doomsday. This is the idea of the court. And to use this intelligently, or to use this courtyard intelligently, is putting the different rulers of Egypt in front of this court. So to solve this problem, when he's going to Christian rulers or to Islamic rulers, so he say that this court is just giving advice for your other court, in the religious court. So he's trying to get himself away from the discussion, or the sterile discussion that's going to rise is Naguib Mahfouz denouncing Islam or denouncing Christianity and talking about pharaonic religion. Okay, so now he was able to clarify this point and to get away from the criticism of the readers and put ourselves in front of us in this beautiful short book, discussing the lives and the times of the people, or the different people who ruled Egypt. And he discussed the great pharaohs and the bad ones, the good ones and the bad ones, and what is with them and what's against them. And he has made the judgment that some of them who were defeated and who made Egypt lose its independence to go to hell, and the others who defended Egypt and made Egypt a strong country, this would put them in a higher place, in a higher situation. So now we can analyze this? Yes. So we have to give you an example. And the example is Gamal Abdel Nasser and Anwar Sadat. Yes, Naguib Mahfouz is putting them in court. Gamal Abdel Nasser is coming in front of the court, and not only the gods of the ancient Egypt, but the pharaohs of ancient Egypt are sitting, including the predecessors of Nasser, whether these are Muhammad Ali or Saad Zaghlul or Mustafa Nahas. And this is the judgment day. Nasser is defending himself brilliantly, and Saad Zaghlul and Mustafa Nahas are attacking him viciously. Wow. This is very theatrical, and this is very theoretical, and at the same time, this is very interesting. And the imagination of Naguib Mahfouz, and using the knowledge that we know about the character of Saad Zaghlul and of Mustafa Nahas and Mustafa Kamil, we can really analyze and know exactly how these people would have really acted if they met Gamal Abdel Nasser in person, and what should they have said to him. And then the judgment in the end, which is a very historical and philosophical. We always want to remember that Naguib Mahfouz was a student of philosophy. So he's discussing in a very philosophical way how people will look at Abdel Nasser. His enemies definitely hate him, and his friends will definitely defend him. And he's a human being, so he has a mixture of both. So in the end, Azuris would say, well, actually, this man has brought to us great success, and he brought to us great failures. We are puzzled what should we do with him, but we recommend that when he is tried, that his good deeds are weighed against his bad deeds. So we return again to the idea of mad, which is Naguib Mahfouz was very impressed with it all through his life. And then the last character, or the last man to be written about, was Anwar Sadat. And Anwar Sadat is facing here not only Saad Zaghlul or Mustafa Nahas, because we know that Mustafa Nahas, there was a trial of assassination made against Mustafa Nahas by Anwar Sadat himself. But he's also faced for the first time by Gamal Abdel Nasser, who's asking him, why did you degrade me? Why did you attack me after my death? And the answer from Sadat was as always, as exactly as the character of Sadat, the great politician. He said, I always wanted to show and express my loyalty to you because I was afraid to have the fate of the rest of my colleagues. And I really acted politically, always complimenting you, always giving you good advice, and always proud to be your friend. But in between myself and me, I would always say that you were wrong in certain situations and positions, but I never admitted that. That's pure politics. That's pure cunning. And yes, this is pure Anwar Sadat, who knew exactly what the word of politics means. And when you discuss, or when you want to describe the President Sadat, you would say he was a politician, a political human being, or sometimes the American slang would say a political animal, because he's the man who's able to use politics to convey a message and to reach good deeds, whatever the way he's doing it, but he's able to do it. So the discussion between Anwar Sadat and Abdel Nasser, and Anwar Sadat and Nahas and Saad Zaghloul, wow. This is first-class novelist work. This is a great way to describe and to understand how such a man can analyze the minds and the imaginations of the reader. So, in finale, Naguib Mahfouz was a great fan of Mustafa Nahas and Saad Zaghloul. We cannot deny that. And he cannot deny that when he talked about Saad Zaghloul, he was very, very kind to him. And when he talked about Mustafa Kamel, he said, well, you are a great man, but your accomplishments were not that strong. So, yes, Mustafa Kamel received the admiration and received the criticism of Arabi, because Mustafa Kamel was very much against Arabi. So when we discuss what was written about Mustafa Kamel, is very interesting. He's weighing Muhammad Farid very well, and he's weighing very much Saad Zaghloul and Nahas. He talked about popular leaders and revolutionary, but he didn't talk about people who are ruled by inheritance. He talked about important leaders in the history of Egypt like Omar Makram. And of course, he talked about Muhammad Ali as a founder of the Egypt. So, reading a book about the governors and about the people who ruled Egypt and the leaders of Egypt, and imagining that they have all met to discuss exactly what they want, this is something of a great interest. So, reading books in a very hot afternoon is a great advice from my side. To read books about summer reading, well, actually they are summer reading, but of course you have to work your mind. Today was the world of info, and today we presented the world of books. We have presented 4 books that deserve to be read. Prisoners of Geography, 10 maps that explain everything about the world by Tim Marshall. Baha Tahir, in complement of the novel, a reading of the novels and novelists. Naguib Mahfouz, and in Miraya, or the mirrors, and Naguib Mahfouz, in front of the throne, a dialogue between rulers. 4 books deserve to be read, and this was the world of books from the world of info. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad was at the controls. I'll see you next week. Have a pleasant afternoon, and hopefully the weather is going to get better, as the forecast is saying, after sunset. Have a pleasant weekend, and see you next week, same time, same station, 95.4 Radio Cairo FM.